skulls nailed to oak trees, in rows, Roman swords driven into trunks, the bark growing around the blades, skeletons in rusted armor, arranged on crude altars, not buried, displayed. Germanicus Julius Caesar stands frozen. 7 years ago, 20,000 Roman soldiers marched into this forest. None walked out. To understand how Rome left its dead in a forest it could not name, we must return to the moment when Rome believed such failure was impossible. 7 years before the bombs, when the empire was not merely powerful, but inevitable. Late summer, 9 AD. Augustus Caesar has spent 40 years transforming a blood-soaked republic into a machine. An empire that runs on systems, tax records, census data, military payrolls, legal codes. 28 legions guard frontiers stretching from Egypt to Britain. They build the roads, they collect the taxes, they administer justice, and when necessary, they kill. They kill with terrifying efficiency. But killing is not the point. The point is incorporation. The slow transformation of conquered peoples into Romans through roads, law, commerce, and incentive. It has worked for generations. It is working now east of the Rhine. Or so Rome believes. But empires do not govern themselves. They require men who believe in the paperwork. Men who see order where others see chaos. Civilization where others see conquest. Augustus found such a man. His name was Publius Quinctilius Varus. Varus is 53, and he is exactly the kind of man Augustus sends to finish what soldiers start. He is not a great general. He knows this. What Varus is, what has made him invaluable, is an administrator. He understands taxation, jurisdiction, the machinery that transforms conquered territory into productive province. He did it in Syria. Now, he will do it in Germania. He commands 3 legions, the 17, the 18, and the 19, plus auxiliaries, 20,000 men. He holds court, adjudicates disputes, implements Roman law. He is building civilization, and he is making assumptions that will kill him. Varus understands that Germanic tribes are fragmented, technologically inferior, incapable of sustained warfare. Every Roman campaign east of the Rhine has confirmed this. The smarter chieftains have already begun cooperating, sending their sons to Rome as hostages. Educated hostages. They return fluent in Latin, trained in military doctrine, convinced of collaboration's benefits. Varus has one such man on his staff. His name is Arminius, and he is the most dangerous man in the empire, precisely because the empire does not know it yet. Arminius is approximately 25, born the son of a Cheruscan chieftain. He was sent to Rome as a child, perhaps 8, perhaps 10. The practice was common. Take the sons of tribal leaders, educate them, create local elites who think like Romans. It usually worked. Arminius excelled. He earned Roman citizenship, rare for a Germanic tribesman. He received equestrian rank, making him legally superior to most Romans. He commanded auxiliary cavalry, fought in major campaigns, earned commendations for discipline and tactical intelligence. By 9 AD, He had spent more of his life inside the Roman system than outside it. He spoke Latin without accent. He understood doctrine not as foreign knowledge, but as professional competence. None of this told Rome what he actually wanted. We will never know when Arminius decided to destroy the army that made him. What we know is that by the summer of 9 AD, he had been planning for months. He had contacted chieftains from warring tribes, using his Roman status to arrange impossible meetings. He had identified terrain where Roman superiority meant nothing. He had developed a coordinated tactical plan, requiring dozens of leaders to subordinate their ambitions to one objective. And he had done this while serving on Varus's personal staff, attending his councils, eating at his table, advising him on Germanic affairs. Arminius understood what Varus did not. Rome's competence made Rome predictable. Legions followed doctrine. They marched in formation, made camp by specification, responded to ambush with rehearsed counter-tactics. These strengths could become weaknesses if you knew exactly how the machine worked. Arminius knew. Rome had taught him. The trap required one final element. The legions had to move. They had to leave their prepared positions and march, not where they chose, but where Arminius needed them to go. He would give them a reason. In early September of 9 AD, word reaches Varus of a tribal uprising to the north. The report comes from Germanic auxiliaries, villages refusing taxes, Roman messengers attacked, a chieftain raising warriors. Standard frontier trouble. Varus has handled such matters all summer. What Varus does not know, the rebellion is fiction. Arminius invented it. The reports come from men he has recruited. The uprising exists only as a lure, designed to draw the legions onto a specific route. Through the forest, Varus consults his staff. Arminius recommends a path that will address the problem en route to winter quarters. He is, after all, the expert. He knows this territory better than any Roman. Varus sees no reason to doubt him. He gives the order to march. 20,000 soldiers, 6 cohorts of auxiliaries, 3 squadrons of cavalry, wagons loaded with supplies, camp followers, wives, slaves, merchants, children, all of them moving toward a forest that was not on any Roman map, all of them following a route chosen by a man who had already decided they would never return. Imagine this. You stand at the column's head as it enters the Teutoburg Forest. Behind you, 20,000 men win through terrain your doctrine never anticipated. The path barely fits 2 wagons. Hills rise on your left, blocking vision. Marsh spreads on your right, sucking mud that would swallow a man to his waist. The trees press close, ancient oak and ash, canopies filtering light into gray-green dimness. You cannot see 300 feet in any direction. You cannot deploy cavalry. You cannot form defensive lines. You cannot even count your own men. The column stretches so far that the rear guard is invisible. You are the Roman army, the greatest military force in the world. You are in a place where none of that matters. The path is worse than expected. Fallen trees block the way. Wagons sink in mud. Progress slows. Varus is not alarmed. Roman legions have forced through difficult terrain before. That night, they camp as best they can. No proper fortifications, just groupings around clearings. sentries posted into impenetrable darkness. It begins to rain. By morning, the path is a river of mud. The rain continues, cold, persistent, soaking through wool and leather. Visibility drops further. The forest had been watching them since they entered. Now, on the second day, the forest began to move, and then the attacks begin. They come from the trees. Not a massed charge. Small groups, 10 men, 20, materializing from undergrowth, throwing javelins at a column that cannot turn to face them, then vanishing. Archers loose arrows from the hills, targeting officers, standard bearers, the men whose deaths cause maximum disruption. The attacks come from everywhere and nowhere. The column cannot coordinate response. Word of an ambush reaches the front only after attackers have disappeared. This is not battle. This is attrition. Varus orders the march to continue. There is no alternative. They must reach open ground where Roman training matters again. But the path does not end, and the attacks do not stop. By the second night, the army Varus commanded had begun to cease being an army at all. The wounded slow the march. The dead cannot be cremated. No time, no dry wood. Roman doctrine requires proper rites. Here, bodies are abandoned in mud. This corrodes something fundamental. Roman soldiers are professionals, bound by the absolute certainty that Rome cares for its own. The sight of comrades left without honor destroys that certainty. The rain continues. The attacks continue. And now, defection. Germanic auxiliaries begin disappearing. Individuals, then groups, slipping into the forest during attacks. Some join Arminius. Some simply calculate that survival requires abandoning a dying column. Varus cannot stop them. In the chaos, tracking who remains and who has fled is impossible. The army is bleeding from the inside. Soldiers dig in mud that fills back as fast as they excavate. They cut wet wood for stakes, exhausting men who have marched and fought for 2 days without food. A war council convenes. The options are impossible. Retreat means marching back through the same killing ground. Standing to fight means fighting an enemy that refuses engagement. Pushing forward leads only deeper into nightmare. Arminius is not present. He left early on the first day, claiming he would raise loyal tribal forces to assist. A plausible story. Varus believed him. For 2 days, Arminius had bled them slowly. On the third day, he came to finish it. Dawn. Rain unceasing. The column forms, shorter now, degraded from an army into something closer to a mob. Arminius has allowed 2 days of exhaustion and demoralization. He has let the rain and the mud and the isolation do their work. Now, he commits his full force. Attacks come from everywhere at once. Not harassment, assault. Thousands of warriors, coordinated by signals the Romans cannot detect, strike the column at multiple points simultaneously. The narrow path becomes a killing ground. Roman infantry needs space to function, space to form lines, lock shields, coordinate. There is no space. Men fight in clumps, in pairs, alone. Warriors emerge from the forest, engage at close quarters, disappear before Roman numbers can concentrate. The wagons become obstacles. Soldiers climbing over them are struck from multiple directions. Camp followers die alongside soldiers. Officers fall at disproportionate rates. The Germanic attackers, instructed by someone who understands Roman command, hunt anyone wearing crests, carrying standards, giving orders, and still the column tries to advance. There is nothing else to try. In the death of empires, we count legions, territories, centuries. We forget that empires die one man at a time. This is one of them. He is perhaps 30 years old. His name does not survive. His unit, X-17, 18, is uncertain. The records that would identify him are lost with everything else. He has a wife in Italia. She is expecting their first child. He has served 8 of his 20-year enlistment. Upon completion, he will receive a land grant, a small farm, enough to support a family. He has never seen this land. It exists only as a promise. He thinks of it now, not heroically. He thinks of it the way men think of home, when they are exhausted and terrified and cannot remember why they are here. The farm, the wife, the child I will not meet. She will wait. She does not know to stop waiting. He thinks, I was supposed to grow old. The thought does not finish. By midday, the question was no longer whether the legions would survive. The question was whether anyone would escape to tell Rome what had happened. By midday, organized resistance has ended. Varus is dead. Suicide, according to most sources. The act of a commander who understood that capture meant humiliation. He fell on his sword, in the mud. His head was later sent to Augustus as a trophy. Some officers attempt to break out with cavalry. A few succeed. They will carry the first reports of disaster. Most do not. The legions die. The killing continues into the 4th day. Survivors are hunted. The wounded, finished. Last pockets, overwhelmed. The eagles of the 17, the 18, and the 19 are captured. 3 sacred standards. 3 symbols of Roman identity. Gone. The news took weeks to reach Rome. When it arrived, it broke something that would never fully heal. Augustus is 61. He has survived civil wars, conspiracies, disasters larger than this. But this, the sources record that he did not appear in public for months, that he let his beard and hair grow, the Roman sign of mourning, that he was heard at night in palace corridors, repeating a single phrase, Quintili Vare, legiones redde, Quintilius Varus. Give me back my legions, not an order, a plea, the cry of a man confronting loss too vast to process. But Augustus's grief, however genuine, was a luxury the empire could not afford. Rome needed to understand what it had lost, and what that loss would cost. Consider what Rome has lost. Not just 20,000 men, not just 3 eagles. Rome has lost certainty. For decades, the assumption has been that Germania can be conquered and Romanized like every other territory. Teutoburg destroys this assumption, not because Germans are better warriors, but because the disaster reveals the machine has limits. There are places it cannot go, peoples it cannot absorb, terrain that negates its advantages, and most terrifyingly, men Rome trained who understand those limits better than Rome does. If Arminius can do this, who else might be waiting? This question, who else is waiting? What other certainties or illusions? Is not confined to ancient Rome. It echoes still. You are watching this from somewhere in the world. Perhaps from a city built on Roman foundations. Perhaps from a continent Rome never knew existed. Perhaps from a territory that was once part of an empire that, like Rome, believed itself permanent. Tell me in the comments, where are you watching from? What borders define your country? What collapses shape how you understand this story? Rome's answer came swiftly, not with acceptance, not with retreat, with fury. Rome does not abandon the Rhine frontier, it reinforces it. Tiberius leads punitive expeditions. Germanicus campaigns for 3 years, winning battles, burning villages, recovering 2 of the 3 lost eagles. Rome demonstrates it is still Rome. But Rome does not advance. The expeditions are punitive, not annexative. No permanent camps beyond the Rhine. No roads into the interior. No administrative absorption. The Rhine becomes a border. Not because Rome cannot cross it, because Rome chooses not to hold what lies beyond. The official justification is strategic. The territory is poor. The cost of occupation too high. The truth is simpler. Rome is afraid, not of the Germans, of the forest. But if Rome paid the price of defeat, Arminius would learn that victory carries its own cost, and the payment would come due sooner than he imagined. Arminius survives. He has achieved the complete destruction of a Roman army. 3 legions, 20,000 dead. The greatest military humiliation in memory. He should be a king. He is not. The tribal coalition fractures. Immediately, chieftains who united against Rome discover they remain rivals. Old feuds resurface. Disputes emerge over plunder, precedence, power. Arminius marries Thusnelda, daughter of tribal leader Segestes, to seal alliance. Segestes opposes the union and defects to Rome, taking his pregnant daughter. She will never return. Their son will be raised Roman, exhibited as a trophy, and die in gladiatorial combat. The heir to nothing. Arminius fights against rival kings, against Roman punitive expeditions, against the fragmentation that is his people's natural state. In 21 AD, 12 years after his greatest victory, Arminius is murdered by his own relatives. He is approximately 37. There is no monument, no unified Germania, no lasting kingdom built on Teutoburg's foundation. Within a generation, the tribes fight each other again, as before, as they will for centuries. Arminius becomes legend, but legend that fractures with each retelling. Romans write of him with bitter fascination. Neither side decides what he was. Perhaps he did not know himself. 5 years after Arminius fell to his own kin, a Roman general finally returned to the place where the legions died, not to conquer, to remember. The soldiers build funeral mounds. They gather bones they cannot identify, separating them with religious care, though provenance is impossible. Skulls beside femurs that may not match. Armor fragments, stacked. Rusted swords piled beside spear points, beside objects too corroded to name. Germanicus performs the rites. The first handful of earth falls from imperial hands. 3 legions. Their numbers will never be used again. 2 eagles will eventually be recovered through diplomacy and threat. The third vanishes from history, perhaps melted, perhaps still buried beneath centuries of growth, and the patient work of roots dissolving what Rome tried to make permanent. Germanicus leads his legions out. He will campaign 2 more years, win battles, demonstrate Rome is still Rome. Then Tiberius recalls him. Concluding continued operations cost more than any possible gain. The forest is not worth the price of holding it. They left the dead in the forest and called it closure. But some wounds do not close. Some borders are not lines on a map. They are scars. The river runs. On one side, roads, aqueducts, law, Latin, cities that will survive millennia. On the other, forest and tribes that will merge and fracture, and eventually become something called Germany. A word meaningless to Arminius, who fought for a people, not a nation. The border holds, not because Rome cannot cross it, because somewhere in the bureaucratic machinery of empire, a calculation has been made. The territory offers insufficient return on the investment required to hold it. This is true. It is not the entire truth. The entire truth is that Augustus beat his head against palace walls, crying for legions that would never return, that Roman mothers frightened children with stories of the forest where soldiers die, that the most disciplined army in the ancient world walked into a place it could not control and discovered the limits of discipline. The border holds because Rome remembers. Varus believed in civilization. Arminius understood what civilization cannot see. Its strength is its weakness. Systems can be learned. Learned systems can be exploited. The most dangerous enemy is not the one who rejects your methods, but the one who has mastered them. Rome built a world. The forest reminded Rome that the world existed before and would exist after. And in the end, in every empire's collapse, every certainty's humiliation, every forest that swallows an army and waits for the next attempt, history teaches one lesson with absolute consistency. The machine has limits, and the forest remembers them all.